Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. Welcome to the podcast. Martin Devlin, Lachlan Moore, talking sport, ranting sport, raving sport, remonstrating, opinionating sport. We do this 3 hours every weekday afternoon on the platform and put together a podcast, some of the highlights of the program, best bits of the special guests we have on every afternoon for you in no particular order. Ryan Fox joined us today. Just a good old catch up. After his best year as a professional golfer, tells us what it's going to take for him to become, hopefully, just the third New Zealand man ever to win a major. Did our bowlers underperform at the One Day Cricket World Cup? And who is our next generation when Bolt and Southey do hang it up? Well, the legend that is Shane Bond. He only played 120 matches in total for our country, 18 test matches, 87 wickets at 22.09. But what an impression he left. Shane Bond joins us. As well as that, Mody Maor, Breakers coach, the 3-7 right now. If you do the maths, and this is comparing to last year to make the playoffs, sixth place spot, SEN at South East Melbourne and Perth both got 15 and 13. So the Breakers are going to have to win 12 of the next 18 games to make it. We pick apart the coach's mind, the brain behind the Breakers. How is he feeling? They've got a few days to go before they hit the court again. And as well as that, Greg Martin, as always. And that was a little different today because normally Marto joins us after 3 o'clock, but he's out on the golf course. He's got some freebie charity thing going on. And basically just, an excuse to get bombed. And so he actually, we had to phone him live during the headlines. That's what happens on the radio, flying by the seat of your pants. Plus, of course, how can we ignore the complete cock-up that is Auckland City Council and their promotional arm, Tataki Auckland Unlimited. Fancy pants name for those that should be able to get an egg on a piece of toast organised, but quite clearly losing the sale GP don't have a bloody clue. That's where we start. As always, tablets in hand, I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. You bunch of losers, Auckland City Council. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
What a balls up the sale GP thing is. Auckland now missing out on hosting a leg of this event for what increasingly appears like bureaucratic reasons. Bureaucracy, admin, pointy-headed people pumping keyboards, just unable to get there, starts with a sh and rhymes with it together. And of course, TAU, which stands for Tataki Auckland Unlimited, the Auckland City Council's tourism and promotional arm, come up with every convenient excuse/reason in the book as why it can no longer happen, but none of it is convincing and none of it anything other than excuse-making. Part of Wynyard Quarter Wharf is still apparently unusable because of fears it's contaminated land. It used to have the petrol silos on it. But TAU have been planning for this event since December 2021. That's 2 effing years, mate, to get this particular sticking point sorted. And if that bit of land can't be used, well, there's plenty of other perfectly good parts of the waterfront that could and would be spectator-friendly. And anyway, contaminated? Or how about putting, I don't know, temporary matting or concrete or plastic or whatever over it and let people, us adults, decide whether we're happy or not sitting there? Good God, this is a council who for 6 weeks or more happily pumped millions and millions of litres of raw sewage into the harbour every day. You didn't shut the beaches down, didn't shut the waterfront down. People were still walking along there, standing, pushing prams, having lunch, walking dogs. As a country, we've all filled ourselves, well, that's probably about 90% of us, filled ourselves full of a vaccine that could well have contaminated us for the rest of our lives, and we did it willfully and voluntarily. New Zealand has become, at central and local government level, a nation of whinging, whining, no, can't do, no, won't do that, no, can't do, no. Find every excuse and reason not to do anything. Now, sport, be it the Women's Rugby World Cup or the Women's Football World Cup or the Warriors, is the one and only thing that seems to unite this country. It gets people talking and communicating and celebrating. Auckland Harbour in March, just imagine. It is a perfect tourism postcard to show the world. This Sail GP has already been in Chicago, LA, Saint-Tropez, Italy, Spain. It's heading to Dubai, Sydney, but no longer Auckland. You absolute tools. You bunch of do-nothing, useless twats. You have failed. You've mishandled this and you've mucked it up now. Auckland and tourism here is left counting the cost. And as for your convenient excuse-making, ducking, diving and dodging, No, it doesn't wash.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Lachlan, sports news headlines. What are they?
There's actually a nice mix of things going around today, Martin. I'll start off with some more rumours. This came out last night. More rumours around Adam Whenua-Blake. Now, let me take you back. A couple of weeks ago, right, he tells the Warriors, I want an immediate release. I want to go back to Sydney. I want to be closer to family. They have discussions. Adam then agrees to stay. But beyond that, we don't know. Then further reports coming out. There's a bunch of Sydney clubs who are keen. The St. George Illawarra Dragons, one of them. Apparently they tabled him a huge offer. Suggestions the Cronulla Sharks are in the mix. And then now the Canterbury Bulldogs are the latest team. They are apparently in the mix as well to try and snag the signature of Adam Whenua-Blake. Phil Gould, the head honcho at the Bulldogs, helping reshape that club. He's come out and said he's a big fan of Adam Whenua-Blake. So it seems not so much maybe that there are discussions, but there's clearly an interest from the Bulldogs to Whenua-Blake, which doesn't shock me. I mean, you've got one of the best props in the NRL. Every club will be going after him, who can fit him in the salary cap, and every club knowing now that he is essentially available beyond next season. So,
I just had a text from Marto. He wants to call now.
Does he actually?
He does, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, right now.
Shall I suspend the news?
So suspend the news.
Suspend the news.
Pause the
All
news
right.
and give him a bell, mate. Normally appears in a couple of hours here on the program, but I've said that you've got some charity golf thing or something to do today. Is that right?
No, the charity golf day. Are you serious? It's the Australian PGA, the second biggest golf tournament in Australia.
I'm sorry, man. I mean, you know, we're just, you know, we've got a much bigger story going on over here. We've got
what do you got?
We've got a city council. So you know the Sail GP that goes around, about to come to Sydney, right? It's quite a big event. It goes to all the flash places around the world. All the yachty boys love it and they get involved. But here in New Zealand, these kind of things are just like, you know, a paid for tourism video. But Auckland City Council has been trying to organise this for 2 years, and then yesterday said, "Oh no, we don't have anywhere for people to stand and watch it."
That sounds like they're highly qualified to be working for the council.
Exactly. I was just saying that you're a good mate of Dan Herbert's. Now, I did a charity thing with him in Tauranga years and years ago, and he told this fantastic story about when he was at the World Cup, which you should have been at in 1991. And he basically, but he did this thing where they just got as many tickets to the final as they could, sold them to the Poms, and they just made bucket loads of cash. And he said they were catching the tube with pretty much a sack full of notes that they took to the bank. It was brilliant.
It was incredible. I was in his room. There were tickets to the World Cup because all the teams that got knocked out said, "Oh no, we don't want to have tickets anymore." And Herb grabbed them, and they were laid out on the bed. And this is Anthony, his brother. So they're very alike. And he had his little brother. Daniel hadn't played for the Wallabies at this stage. He was just touring. So he assisted his brother because we're all amateurs. I get the statute of limitations
right.
over on. Yeah, we're all complete amateurs. Grabbed it and just sold them at a huge profit just because everyone in London wanted tickets to the World Cup final. And made bucket loads. And from that, the two Herbert brothers were regarded as the genii because suddenly people went home with players went home with cash in their pockets.
That's
First
right.
time ever. It was such a beautiful thing. And from there, he's a good man, mate. I don't know if you've been talking about that Hamish McLennan. He's been a bit of a clown, mate.
Mm-hmm.
Arrogant, ego-driven, etc., and everything that Daniel Herbert is not, mate. From the age of 4 or 5, grassroots rugby courses through his veins to this day. His brother Anthony, who also played in that World Cup winning Wallabies in 91, he runs a rugby club here in Brizzy. It's Queensland. He's worked for Queensland Rugby Union, and now he's got the top job. And I know he's got the feel of rugby. He's not doing it for any power trip or anything like that. So hopefully he'll be right, and he's not the sort of guy that'll go out and appoint some coach like Eddie Jones on a whim. So, mate, hopefully we're in better hands. But as he said to me yesterday, it ain't a quick hit. Like, don't expect a sugar fix. We're going to try to fix this and centralise like Ireland do and like you guys tend to do. So we're actually changing things over here.
Hang on a second. So you've got a rugby guy who loves rugby in charge of rugby. Sorry, I'm not adding one. So I'm confused about that because, you know, shouldn't there be some diversity, equality and inclusion aspect to that appointment?
No, we've tried.
Okay, we've tried that.
We've tried that,
and
and it didn't work. And so we're going back. And And Daniel Herbert, being chairman, he also has a lot of business experience. So he's a rugby coursing through his veins. He's represented at the high level. He played 68 tests for the Wallabies.
And he was bloody good too. I do remember he was a bloody good
He won the World Cup. He pushed Jason. The thing was, I'll explain who he is. Here you go. In terms of the psychological model, he waited. He was a superstar. You know, you could tell from when he was 18 or 19 that he was going to be it. But the problem was, Horan and Little were the centres for Queensland and Australia. So he just sat there, and he got a chance occasionally, and then finally it took him 4 years. So it wasn't until he was 23. He was ready to go when he was job ready to be a Wallaby when he was 19, but he had to wait. And what does that teach you? Toughness, resilience, and patience. And that's what he's had all the way through, mate. He's extremely staunch, and it ain't about him. It's about rugby. So
great appointment then in that case. Greg Martin is with us, Triple M Breakfast host out of Brisbane. 3 hours. You still got your stupid daylight saving. God, when is this going to stop, mate?
But me doing breakfast radio, it's brilliant. It's light now at about 10 past 4 in the morning, so I love it.
Okay.
A lot of other people don't. So anyway, we tried to change it, but what did they say? The cows won't.
Yeah, they know the curtains. They said the curtains are going to get sunburned or something.
The kiddies to sleep.
That's it, something like that. I tell you what I've loved is I've loved seeing when Man City won the treble last year. Who was the winger with the floppy haircut who just went on all the drunk? Yeah, Grealish, the drunken rampage. Travis Head has been doing the same in India, mate. Apparently he hasn't even phoned her at home. He's just been completely wasted for about a month.
Remember last week you asked me who would you like to have a beer with in the Australian team, and there was silence. Can I now answer that? Travis Head.
Isn't he great?
Oh, mate, he's old school, and he's got a little bit of a gut poking through.
Yes.
That's from drinking too. I think 7 of them. Do you know what's happening now? We've got to play India starting tonight.
In a T20 series. I know.
4 T20s.
What the hell?
Most of them came home. Solar Panel Pat and Hazelwood and Stark.
I tell you what, he sailed the boat quick, did Pat, didn't he? Don't tell me he flew and destroyed the ozone layer. Oh, he did. All right.
Yes, he did fly on a plane, yes. Yeah. I think it's low emission plane, I think it was.
Oh, of course.
They came home. But they were all interviewed as they arrived at Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane. They were all interviewed going, how will they go? And they just laughed when they said, if Travis Head plays in that game, if he's sober enough to play in one of those T20 games, it'll be a miracle.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Thank you so much for giving us the time. Shane Bond will join us in a few minutes. Lachlan, back to the headlines.
Yes, thank you. Well, I'll forgive you for the
intrusion.
I was going to say interruption, but intrusion. That's probably a harsher word, the intrusion.
Well, he's better than both of us, mate, Marto, and the audience loves him, so every time he wants to talk, let him.
Steady on.
I'm just telling the truth.
Anyway, the one story I got through just around Adam Fanua-Blake, the Bulldogs, Canterbury Bulldogs in Australia, expressing an interest in him. The Bulldogs General Manager of Football, Phil Gould, said this on Australian radio. Adam is a quality player. I spent a little bit of time with the Warriors during COVID and got to see Adam firsthand. He's a quality player. Well, Phil Gould saying that Adam Fanua-Blake being available pretty much beyond next year, after next year, suggests the Bulldogs are going to try and get him, I think. Which is fair enough. You can't blame them. All right, Oscar Pistorius, convicted killer. He is set to get a fresh chance to win his freedom after a blunder was exposed in his earlier parole bid. The former Paralympian will get an emergency parole hearing on Saturday New Zealand time. This according to The Sun out of the UK. Pistorius, was wrongly ruled ineligible for early release from prison in March of 2023, March earlier this year. Sensational reports are circulating among the golf world that world number 3, Jon Rahm, is on his way out of the PGA Tour and is weighing up a $600 million move to live golf. That is 966 million New Zealand dollars, by the way. Fellow major winner Phil Mickelson, who was the biggest name to first sign with. Was he the very first to sign with Live Golf? I think he was. He was at least the first big one, wasn't he, Mickelson? He has, quote, been telling folks in recent days that Jon Rahm signing with Live Golf is, quote, a done deal. Does Ryan Fox agree? We'll hear later on in the show. English football club Barnsley have been kicked out of this season's FA Cup today for fielding an ineligible player. The third team said an administrative error was to blame for fielding the unnamed player.
Always an administrative error, isn't it, eh?
In their first round replay against Horsham.
Who's that guy in the dressing room? I don't know him, coach. He's bloody good. They play him.
Yeah. Where's he from? Trinidad and Tobago, I think.
Yeah, Real Madrid.
More football news. Michaela Moore's football firm's return has been short-lived. The defender has been ruled out of New Zealand's upcoming friendlies against Colombia after suffering an unspecified injury.
Bing, 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 bing. I think something else is going on here.
International football in the men's arena. Brazil's first home defeat they suffered against Argentina. 1-0 they lost. Nicolas Otamendi scoring for Argentina. This match was at the Maracanã, but it's been overshadowed by a brawl between fans in the stands pre-match. The violent pre-match incident starting shortly after the national anthem stalled the start for 27 minutes. Lionel Messi leading his team off the field and into the locker rooms for 22 minutes. At least one fan left the stadium bleeding from his head. Rio police said they had arrested 8 people due to the brawl.
Vicious. The pictures were just vicious. And that's the police with their nightsticks. Just smacking people.
Relentless they were.
The other really weird thing about it is that if you've seen any of the video footage, people, they got Brazilian and Argentinian fans side by side in the stand. It's just a recipe for trouble. I know it should happen in sport, and that was one of the beautiful things about the Rugby World Cup. That international rugby, you can mix and mingle with fans from other teams, and it's always jovial and a good bit of banter and all of that kind of stuff. But in round ball football, you cannot. And so to have Argentinian and Brazilian fans who then during the national anthems, they all started, singing and swearing over each other's anthems, and then words get exchanged, and then punches get thrown, and then before you know it, the police are waiting in there and just going hell for leather. And, oh, man, it was scary and ugly.
Yeah, nasty, nasty videos that have surfaced from that match. LeBron James yesterday became the first player in NBA history to score 39,000 points.
He's the GOAT.
This during, I tell you what,
He's the GOAT.
I'll entertain the argument.
Lachlan,
I'll entertain
please.
it.
You've argued against it your whole life.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I'd change. One day I'm this, one day I'm that when it comes to the NBA GOAT discussion. I hate the discussion. I hate it so much.
Well, we're going to have it.
This during the Lakers' 139-99 victory over the Utah Jazz. Of course, last season LeBron James became the highest-scoring player in NBA history, passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That was in a game against the Oklahoma City Thunder that we watched in Wellington when we were down there in February, earlier this year.
Yep, we did.
And finally, this is, I guess, sports news, not really though. Former All Blacks halfback Aaron Smith, now former All Black he has put his Dunedin home up for sale. The 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom property is listed as being owned by Aaron and his wife Tegan, with One Roof estimating value to be around $1.4 million. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
Ryan Fox, good old mate of the show, great friend to us is Ryan, so generous with his time. He's back in New Zealand now. He's got a break, obviously, before it all kicks off again next year. His best ever year this year on the professional tour. And, of course, winning at Wentworth, the BMW. I mean, and beating some of the very best players in the world. In his own words, he's such great fun to listen to, so raw, so honest. Ryan Fox, enjoy. What is so different about this year from last year for you? I know you're going to have time to reflect on this, just in terms of I'm not saying the results and the wins and things, but what have you just felt about what is different about you and the way you're playing golf?
I think there's probably just an acceptance that, my game's good enough now, that I guess I've always believed it, but I'm not sure if the results had always shown it. And whereas the last couple of years, they've definitely shown that, it's good enough to compete with the best in the world. And, for me, it's having actually done it means a whole lot more than actually believing it. So I think that's where a lot of the good results come from. I don't feel intimidated under pressure anymore. I don't feel intimidated playing in those big events. I don't feel intimidated coming down the stretch, trying to win events, which is, 4 or 5 years ago, something that definitely happened more often than not. And it's a nice place to be.
Obviously, we're referring to the BMW at Wentworth, and I've been telling the story, and I hope I haven't been speaking out of school. But I said, look, when we all caught the train together to the World Cup final, we were stuck there in the carriage, and you were telling us about that back nine, and I was talking to Telf about this yesterday, and saying just that feeling that you could pick a club up, look at it, go, that's where I want to hit it, and bang, you just hit it there, and then you do it again and do it again. What a feeling, mate.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say that's happened very often for me in golf. I mean, it happens enough socially or whatever, and occasionally in tournaments, but I don't think it's ever happened to me in that situation before. Obviously, it's a massive event. It's one of the strongest fields we have on tour, probably in the world, at that event, and to get that feeling and just feel very comfortable in that situation and feel like I knew exactly where it was going to go.
Wow.
It was almost a surprise to an extent. I felt far more uncomfortable at that golf course on a Thursday playing it than I have in that situation with the tournament on the line. And hopefully I can get in that place a bit more often, but I'm also at peace with that. Could be the best 9 holes of golf I ever play in my life. From that back 9 there, I missed one shot, which was a tee shot on 15 after an hour and a half delay. Everything else went exactly where I wanted to hit it. So it's if that's the best 9 holes of golf I ever play in my career, I'm good with that.
Ryan Fox is with us. Did you feel at the time that you're just kind of like the centre of the universe, like not even aware of who else you're playing with or anything else? It's just like it was just you, because this is what that being in the zone thing is, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's quite hard to describe. I knew exactly what was going on. I knew that I had a chance to win. I knew what the scores were, but I didn't really have a clue who was doing it. I knew Aaron Rai was in my group and he was going okay, but other than that, I wasn't really thinking about, John Rahm was a group ahead of me going well, Tyrrell was a group ahead of me going well. I kind of got surprised at the end. After all said and done, I went and I saw the leaderboard when we went back to 18 for the prize giving, and basically gone, oh shit, that's who I've beaten down the stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, that, apologies for the language, but that's kind of what went through my head. Like, what's just happened? I knew I could win the tournament, but I didn't have a clue who was there. And I think in previous years that would have intimidated me, who was on that leaderboard, but I didn't even really recognize it, to be honest. It was it's just hard to describe where my head was at, and that it was just so calm, so at peace is not probably the right term for it, but it was, all the decision making was done very calmly. It was easy without, nothing felt tense. And in that situation, it was, the exact opposite of what you probably should feel in that scenario.
I apologise, if any of these questions, you've probably heard them 100 times and answered them 100 times before. And it's not about anyone in the field that you now think that, oh, look, I can't beat them. You can beat them all. But when you go into these big tournaments like this now, is it more about you just have to completely focus on your own game and on the course, and it doesn't really matter who the hell else is playing?
Yeah, I think I've done a really good job of that the last couple of years anyway. The goal for most weeks has been to beat the golf course, not try to do anything else complicated, and that makes it so much easier coming down the stretch. I mean, if you think about trying to beat a guy like Rory with all the shots he's got, he hits shots that no one else in golf can hit, and you watch it and you go, well, I can't beat that. But if you think about it and go, well, I can beat the golf course just as well as Rory can beat the golf course in a slightly different way of doing it, then that challenge becomes a whole lot easier. And I think, a couple of the events that I've won in the last couple of years, he's been on the leaderboard and it hasn't been as intimidating as it would have been otherwise. And I think that's purely down to just trying to focus on beating the course rather than trying to beat the other guys that are playing.
Ryan Fox with us after his best year as a golfing professional, and that means now you get to play the US Tour next year. And we've spoken about this, and we've spoken about it privately as well. And, it's a completely different set of circumstances than when you're going there on your own. So just how does that manifest? Does that mean that, the whole family, the kids come, wife comes as well with you? And then obviously you're going to have some support people around them as well. So how does that change things for you playing in the US?
Honestly, at the moment, I don't know. I'm still trying to work all of that out. The schedule changes quite a bit. It's going to be really, really busy the first sort of quarter half of next year, which is traditionally different than Europe. We're a little busy in January, and then, we don't really have a whole lot of golf until May, or you can take a bit of time off until May if you want to, whereas the PGA Tour is full noise from January onwards. And the family will definitely come up. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know whether it's getting a base up there, whether it's just traveling week to week, whether it's going to have people, hire a full-time nanny up there. honestly don't know. There's a whole lot to work out, and it's kind of amazing how quick, that back nine at Wentworth sort of changed my whole career, my whole life effectively for next year. That was what guaranteed the PGA Tour card for this year or for next year. And yeah, trying to work out how it's all going to work is pretty daunting at the moment, to be honest.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics when the bell. We move quickly on to the next one. Is John Rahm going to live golf? I think Ryan Fox answered that question for us. Is Adam Fanua-Blake going to the Bulldogs? Well, he's going somewhere other than the Warriors next year. LeBron reaches 39,000 NBA points. He's the only player ever to do that. He's been in the league 21 years. Is he the greatest of all time? Lachlan will debate that. The Bucks and the Celtics playing kiddie basketball at the moment. I was expecting so much more of this game. There is no defense in this game at all. No defense
From
at all.
a guy who barely watches basketball.
I'm old school, mate. I'm old
Right.
school. I like defense. Losing the Sail GP. Does that surprise you, Lachlan, in a word? And Brazil, Argentina in the crowd trouble yesterday. Sidebar to that is, Leo Messi has just lost his legs, hasn't he? No wonder he's playing the MLS at the moment, because he could not compete at all in those top leagues in Europe. Let's talk about that to start with, though. The big story out of this World Cup qualifier yesterday should have been that Brazil lost at home for the very first time ever in a World Cup qualifier. It doesn't matter because there are 10 teams in the South American group, and there used to be, I think, 4 that got automatic qualification. Then the 5th one played off because we played Peru, didn't we? And they were the 5th place qualifier, the All Whites, against them. Now, I think the top 7 get automatic qualifying for the next World Cup because there's 150 teams involved. But anyway, that should have been the story. Maybe the story should have been about Messi and the fact that he just looks so lackluster. He spent most of the second half getting treatment before he was subbed. But the big story is the violence in the crowd and the horrifying pictures, because everyone's got a cell phone. And it started with apparently rival sets of fans mocking each other's national anthems, which, right or wrong, we all know that football crowds can't mix and mingle like we did at the Rugby World Cup. God, it was a blessing at the Rugby World Cup, wasn't it, Lachlan, where, before the quarterfinal against Ireland, we were just wandering around Paris doing our job, doing as much as we could to get audio and crowd reaction and talk to fans before the big game and that. And anyone you saw in a green jersey, what do, Loch? You just walk up and say, a couple of All Black fans here, we're going to beat you tonight, we're going to give you some hard, all of that. And you'd always get a bit of crack, bit of banter, wouldn't you? You do it to the Yarps, you do it to the Poms, you do it to anyone that has got another rugby jersey on. But in football, you can't do that. And these two countries have hated each other for years on a football field. And so they put the two sets of fans together. And this is in a family area. There are kids there, men, women, children, everything. And then all of a sudden it goes off. So the Brazilian police just get out the big truncheons and then they're just wading into people, just bashing the hell out of them. And some so-called fans were then grabbing the truncheons off them and attacking each other with it.
Yeah.
I'm amazed no one died, because normally what happens in those situations is there's a panic, and then, of course, when there's a panic, there's a stampede, and when there's a stampede, people fall over and get squashed. Bloody lucky you're not counting bodies after that.
Yeah, exactly. In a sense, what's new, because this has always gone on with football crowds and fans clashing and whatnot. Why they're right next to each other and there's the ability for that to happen is a bit stupid. But also, I don't know, the way that it's policed in other parts of the world has never been great, I don't think. When you see the footage of police themselves beating fans, but then continuing to do it, it's just really disgusting footage, to be honest. But I don't know. In sports and outside of, I guess, the Western world, and when I say Western world, I mean New Zealand, Australia, the US, the UK and whatnot, when it comes to these games, there always seems to be a lot of violent issues that go on.
Yeah, and it's just made for TV pickies, isn't it? Because, you can't take your eyes off it. It's absolute clickbait. And then, 2 seconds later, we're, watching a car blow up on the bridge between Niagara Falls, Canadian side of the border, American side of the border. Good God, I was only there last year and we drove across that very bridge. John Rahm going to live golf, yes or no?
What, as in it's happening, or do I want it to happen?
Both.
I don't know if it's happening. I guess no, from what Ryan Fox told us. But at the same time...
Why would he go? What's the point? Aren't they together now?
Well, that's what I asked when I first saw the story. I thought they were merging. So how can you defect from the PGA Tour and go to live golf if they're forming a working partnership, if you will?
See, the other thing is that I'm still confused as to you can't get qualifying points for the professional tour playing live golf because you only play 3 rounds. So if you don't get those qualifying points, then your ranking slips and then you can't go to the majors, of course, unless you are a major championship winner, I suppose.
Now, John Rahm won the Masters early this year.
Right,
and he's won, I think, at least 2 of the other 3 majors as well.
So that gives some qualification to actually get into those events. All right. Adam Fanua-Blake going to the Bulldogs. Look, we floated this a couple of weeks ago. As soon as the story came out that he pulled out the compassionate leave clause, and look, I mean, the media, the mass media in New Zealand, the mainstream media, they just report this as fact.
Well, no, they did. The way, at least the story that I saw, went along the lines of Bulldogs into the race.
No, I'm talking about the compassionate leave clause. That he wants
that.
to, that he wants
Okay,
to
sorry.
leave.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
And look, I'm not calling out the guy, but I'm just saying that it's a little convenient every time this excuse comes out, and it always seems to be players and coaches.
He did it with Manly in 2021.
Yeah,
did the same thing.
All right, okay. Well, he seemed to be spending enough time around his parents. He could come over. I don't want to even. But it's obvious that he's in demand over in Australia, and the Warriors are going to offload him to a Sydney club. They've already said that, providing I think that they get one back. Like, I think that's the clause that they're trying to put in his contract, that they will swap you if they get another front rower.
Well, a similar thing happened with Brisbane where it didn't, I don't think the signings aligned, but essentially...
Well, how can you? I mean, he's voted as one of the top
Brisbane
2.
did it with Reece Walsh where the Warriors gave him up and the Warriors got Mody Maor. So that's how that happened.
Not a straight swap.
It wasn't a straight swap, but I think there was sort of a handshake.
Well,
that was the deal, because that was what was reported at the time. Then Mody Maor signed
I'm
with the Warriors.
prepared to accept this and prepared, to accept it gracefully, providing that we do get an up-and-comer, a big buffer.
Well, why can't... Now, I hate the idea of someone who doesn't want to be at my club.
Same.
Not
Maybe
wanting to be there but staying. But at the same time, you signed a contract.
Yeah, I know.
See out the contract.
See out the contract. I mean, yeah.
I think player empowerment, what I said on the ATM podcast either this week or last week, it's just gone too far to the point now that, and it started, I think, in the NBA. The NBA is the worst at it, where a player just gets up and says, I don't want to be here anymore, trade me or give me to this other team. And then teams just go, okay, and they just adhere to the player's demands.
Yeah, totally agree. LeBron, 39,000 points down the NBA. Oh, hey, don't react like that. The guy's going to keep setting milestone after milestone. 21 years in the league, started when he was, 17 or 18. He's 38 now, and you do the math. And he surpassed Kareem at the start of the year. We went along and watched that live, locking at the pub in Wellington, didn't we? And now he's got 39,000 points. And I suppose the silly old debate. It's just a good debate in sport. I mean, is he this? Is he that? Look, the thing I think that you have to respect about LeBron James is the impact that he's made on the league. Plus, he has never been, despite the fact that, look, he's manufactured this or he's got that and he's bought this player and that, he's never been an arse, has he?
Like, well, if he is, it's been very well covered up.
Okay, yeah, but, and so... he's actually been a good role model, apart from the fact that, he gets sucked so money out of, China and, of course, the sweatshops and all of that kind of stuff.
He's never had any off-court issues. The only thing about LeBron James that I've always hated, and it's now happening to my team, is that when he goes to a team, he runs the team. Mm-hmm. He becomes the general manager. Of course. He makes trade. I mean, look...
But that's because he's earning so much cash for the club, mate.
No player's ever done it to the degree that he has.
Well,
and,
I think
and
Michael
a lot
Jordan
of the time...
probably did it,
No, come on, not to this degree. Michael Jordan didn't sit there in the front office and make every single trade and signing and told them what to do. He obviously had his input, but he didn't have the final say. LeBron absolutely, especially with the Lakers, has the final say. And he has made some bad calls. I mean, the Russell Westbrook trade that we made was awful.
Okay,
there was a year that we were playing seriously really good basketball. I thought, and it was the year after we won the Bubble Championship, and I to this day will say that we would have won that title. And we signed Andre Drummond on the condition that he becomes a starter because LeBron wanted him on the team. He was rubbish for us.
Rubbish.
We pissed off Marc Gasol. He left, and then we got all injured and didn't. Anyway, I can go on for hours. He'll get to a point where especially if he wins another ring or two, he could win another one with the Lakers. He'll get to a point where what he's achieved and what he has amassed on his resume is so almighty that you actually almost can't deny the fact that he probably is the greatest, because Jordan didn't... I mean,
well, it depends on how you define it. You've got to define it. What, is it just stats? Is it figures? Is it championships won? Because Bill Russell is the greatest of all time because he won 11 if it's just on championships.
Again, this is what I don't like. It's a combination of everything. People will sit there and say, oh, well, if you talk about rings, isn't Robert Horry one of the greatest? No, it's a mixture of everything put together, and I think we're all adult enough to understand what that mixture is.
It's just a silly old sports debate,
I know, and I hate it. I hate it.
I love it, mate. I love it because you hate it. Finally. Sail GP.
sailing away.
Just Auckland City Council, honestly, there's nothing that you do which you could even faintly label efficient, is it? Everything you do is either a cock-up or costs too much.
You had 2 years to sort out the issue with this land. What did you do for 2 years?
And apparently, when they're saying oh, it didn't cost ratepayers anything in terms of extra staff or anything. Oh, it's just ours. But well, those people were seconded to this project for 2 years.
They failed, and they're probably not going to be penalised. They're not going to lose their salaries or their jobs.
Land was contaminated. But again, in this day and age, I'm sure that for the very brief time that Sail GP is on, you can cover up that land. You've got guys out there at the moment, Lachlan, digging it up with bulldozers and standing there with shovels. If they're not getting contaminated, well, then the rest of us are perfectly safe, are we not?
I think so.
You would think so, would
Couldn't
you not?
Lay like assuming it's relatively stable land, couldn't you just lay some concrete and then some fabric and then some fake grass?
Yes.
Couldn't you do that?
I mean, God, you look at Madison Square Garden, they put down wood and then they put down ice within about the space of half an hour and change the flooring on there.
Then they have concerts the next night.
You're sitting there going, for God's sake, you people!
Devlin.
I'm as tired as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
The platform.
Shane Bond, fast bowling legend. I don't use that word lightly, but he certainly was. Shane Bond was just brilliant when he was playing for the Black Caps. It was such a short-lived career, though. He only played for about 7 or 8 years. But if you remember that 2001-2002 one-day series in Australia, just smashing and wrecking the Australian batting lineup. Sheer pace. His thoughts and assessment of how our bowlers went at the One-Day Cricket World Cup. And also, the new generation, who are they going to be? Because Bolton South, they aren't hanging around forever. Yeah, you must have one eye on their pace bowlers. I look at Hazelwood, Stark and Cummins. You know what impresses me the most? It's their longevity, the fact that they play so much cricket. These guys very rarely get injured. They front up time after time after time, don't they?
They do, and I suppose you build success on continuity, and I think you look at New Zealand's success over probably you'd say now the last 8 to 10 years, and it's been built on Bolt, Southey, Wagner, those sorts of players who, again, haven't been injured very much. That not only that performance, but that durability side, and not only just across test matches, but across all formats. So, the Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins trio is one of the great trios of bowling, really, and the fact that also Pat's leading the team as well now and done a brilliant job. You have to say that those three are going to be at the end of their career seen as legends of the game.
Rodney, what is it? I mean, you had so much trouble with your back as well, and so did Dan Vittori as well, and it just takes such a toll as a job, as an occupation and a career. But these guys and the guys that you've just mentioned for New Zealand have seemed to overcome that. What is it down to?
Oh, look, obviously fitness is one. You sort of forget that, Pat Cummins had five or 6 years missing from the Australian team, selected at 18 and injured early and missed 5 years playing because of back problems. And you sort of forget that because he's been playing consistently for the last 4 to 5 years. So, look, sometimes it's just a bit of bad luck. You have to be in peak physical condition. So there's no doubt the bowlers of both, Australia and New Zealand are that. And the likes of Bumrah for India, who's gone through, back surgery, but he's in peak condition. So injuries are part and parcel. You're going to get them as a bowler. So you need a little bit of luck, but it's that consistency of routine, of the work that you do off the field, management. It's the combination of everything that will keep you on the park.
How do you assess the performance of our bowlers at the One Day World Cup?
They probably weren't as consistent as what they would have liked to be. I think, we've got obviously bowlers who can move the ball around. The conditions didn't really suit that much, didn't move around a lot. So, look, I thought we were pretty good in catches. Probably the games that we really needed to step up, we probably didn't do it as well as what we could. And probably the semi-final was the most disappointing performance, I think. Not only we just didn't adapt to the conditions. The difference between us and Australia had different field sets. They chopped and changed their bowlers. They had a really clear game plan about how they thought they were going to win it. I only really see that from us, that real clear game plan or throwing something different at a team that they'd already played in conditions that they should have known.
And I especially looked at Trent Boult and so much expected and so much demanded of him. And he didn't look like the guy that we've seen play for New Zealand so often. What do you put that down to? Can we just point to the fact that, hey, he's playing a lot of T20 cricket now and I don't know whether the standard is up to it, or just did not the conditions suit him exactly as he would have wanted?
Yeah, I didn't think he bowled poorly. That's the one difference is that you look across all the bowlers, the Starks, even the Cummins, the Shaheen, Sharafridis, a lot of those opening bowlers and really express pace bowlers didn't have a lot of luck or take a lot of wickets at the front end in the tournament just because the conditions were batting friendly and the ball didn't swing a lot. So I certainly didn't think Trent bowled poorly. It's just sometimes have to find a different way to sort of skin the cat, and I sort of go back to that final. Australia had deep point out. They took the pace off earlier. They chopped and changed their bowlers. And that's the sort of thing perhaps we didn't do during the tournament. We didn't try anything different. We didn't offer up sort of a different set of game plans. So, look, I thought Trent was not too bad. Matt Henry was a loss for New Zealand, him getting injured. Ferguson was inconsistent. Really, we didn't see the best of him. And then, of course, you had Mitch Santner, who was brilliant through the tournament. So, look, we had our chances, even in that semi-final. I thought if New Zealand could have kept India to 350, our batting was our real strength during the tournament, we would have had a chance to win that semi-final.
Would you have thrown Jamieson there in the semi-final as something different, but a different height, bit of a different angle?
Oh, look, it's a big call to do that. I mean, obviously, Pim's got the experience, and also his leadership on the field. Hindsight, I don't think you'd ever do that with a guy in his first game in the tournament, and I didn't think New Zealand would ever do that, or probably most teams wouldn't do that anyway. As I said, I think New Zealand will just be disappointed with the way they bowled in the semi-final. They just weren't as good as what they needed to be. And if you're not that good against a team like India, then you get crunched. That's exactly what happened.
Shane, do you fear now for the future of one-day cricket? I've been racking my brains, and we've had a lot of talk about this, about, where does it sit in the calendar? Because every 4 years that tournament is great, but where do you put 50-over cricket in between T20s and Tests and actually make it relevant from here through to the next World Cup?
It's a great question, buddy. I spent 12 days in India doing a little bit of ESPN cricket info work and watch every game for 12 days. They were bloody long days.
Yep.
To be fair, and most of those games were really one-sided. They're talking about knocking it down to 40 overs. I still think that then the stats become you can't compare. It's still a great game, but people just don't have the time to watch it, and the tournament's incredibly long. When you compare it with the T20 World Cup, it's all over in 3 weeks.
Right.
And the games are all super competitive and lots of close games. So for me, I wouldn't play one-day cricket as much. I play T20 cricket. I think you can shorten tours. You can play a 7-game series in the back of 10 days. Spread across the country. You can play back-to-back games over the weekend, even Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. I think if you're going to play one-day cricket, you've almost got to go back to the old tri-series or quad series where, if you're New Zealand, you get India, England and Australia here and play a little tournament, and perhaps it would make it a little bit more interesting, because I think the bilateral series are, they're pretty boring. There's no context really outside of qualifications for World Cup. So, for me, it would be just test matches and T20 cricket, and I'd sort of park the one-day cricket for a while.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Mody Maor, Breakers coach. Very, very slow start to the season. I'm being generous there, 3-7. And you would have thought after Thursday last week, winning away at the Tasmania Jack Jumpers, here we go, turned a corner, but no. Illawarra Hawks come to town, bottom team, can't win away from home, can't buy a win, hold us to 65 points. So, after all the success last year, now it's adversity. Let's pick apart the coach's brain. What is he thinking? How is he preparing for next game day? I wish we were talking and it was 7-3, not 3-7. What have you been doing I bet. What have you been doing over the last few days? Have you been thinking about this day and night?
Yes. Yeah. This is basically the way to sum up the last few months, not the last few days. Obviously, last game and Will's injury threw a new curveball at us. So, yeah, definitely back to the drawing board.
Look, I've read all your comments about the injuries. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. What else can we say apart from that?
About what?
The injuries.
What else can I say about what? About the injuries?
Yeah, that it just sucks.
I mean, seems like you kind of summed it up well. In reality, we need to differentiate between two kinds. The injuries that may come from bad planning, load management, something like this, and some of them are just a lot of bad luck, broken feet, etc. The timing of them has been very disruptive. Every time we seem to kind of find a rhythm and learn how to play together, then we kind of need to go and reinvent the rotation and reinvent the wheel. And it's caused us to look not fluid at times. But hopefully this is something that we grow from and we overcome and we become a better team on the other side of.
How easy is it or not for you to replace like with like? Like, losing Will, obviously, you just can't replace that guy.
Yeah, it's impossible. It's not like for like. It's not like for like when we lost Jessup, and it's not like for like with Zylan, and it's not like for like with Will. These are very unique players with very unique characteristics that we envisioned them fitting into the puzzle of a team in a very certain way. And nobody can do what Will does. Nobody can do what Zylan does. So we need to kind of change how we go about our business into fitting the players that we do have.
How difficult is that then? It's almost like you're having to reinvent the wheel for yourself.
I mean, we've needed to shift the way we play and the way we defend from a technical kind of standpoint quite a bit from the beginning of the season. How difficult it is, it's part of the challenges of coaching. It's fun at times, frustrating at others.
Does it make you question yourself at times like this?
I'd lie if I say that doubt doesn't creep in when the results and the way the team plays doesn't correlate with what you want it to look like and how you want your team to play and how good you think your team can play. Then yes, for sure. The first place I look is at myself. What are the things that I can do better? What are the things that I'm not doing good enough? What are the stones that I've left unturned, etc.?
Mody Maor, Breakers coach with us. When you're only shooting 33%, how do you account for that? Is it just some days you have off days and that's what happens to your shooters? They just can't find a basket?
I mean, that's an easy explanation that I don't really buy into because that puts it out of the realm of our control.
Right.
And there's nothing really to do with it. So no, I think that a big reflection of the percentage of your shots that you make is the quality of shots that you create. And the quality of shots that you create has to do with your flow, your rhythm, how you make your reads, your spacing, etc. on offense. And it was very visible to anybody. You don't need to be a basketball coach to see that our offense in that game was, let's call it sluggish. So that created bad shots, which then led to low percentages. It wasn't just a case of making or missing.
So you're happy with the effort, the intensity, and what the players are bringing? It's just not gelling together or something?
I mean, I was happy in that game. I feel we've made strides in the level of intensity and competitiveness that we play with. It hasn't been what we want it to be from the beginning from different reasons. But I definitely feel we're better in this aspect. And getting better is kind of all we can ask for. At the moment, if we take the last game as the sample size because this is the roster we have moving forward, then, definitely we need to solve some issues on offense.
I mean, I know that, you don't make excuses, and I'm sorry if the questions are going to be frustrating for you, but there's got to be solutions to it. And one of the things that I read that you were saying was that the possibility of bringing in other players. Is that something that you're still considering? And if so, what kind of timeline?
I mean, when you ask that kind of question, then it necessarily leads me to say something that reflects poorly on the playing group that we have now. And it's not what I want to say, and it's also not what I think. I believe we have enough in the locker room to win these games, to win enough games to give us a chance to make the playoffs. And when we're in full strength, I think we're the last team that you want to play against. So I believe in what we have. That being said, teams make adjustments in season. And when you have a set of circumstances that are as unique as ours, we've lost 7 players for over 6 weeks, over a 3-month stretch. Then sometimes the right thing to do is to add another piece. But a lot of stars need to align. The piece needs to be available. It needs to want to come. It needs to fit in the budget. Management needs to want to make the move. It's not so simple. And when you're on a moving train, then hitting that target isn't always easy.
It was, fascinating talking to you last year, Mody, because you seemed so level-headed and calm about the success. And you just, it was almost like that Rudyard Kipling thing. That sign at Wimbledon, which says, success and failure are the same thing. Treat both exactly the same. Throw them both out. Do you still feel like that? In your own headspace, are you still where you were last year?
That's a very good question. I hope I'm not exactly where I was. I hope I'm better than what I was last year. Better at handling the ebbs and flows of a season. Better at handling the circumstances, whatever they are. seems like people forget easily because we started the season really well. Last year, we had a stretch after we were 11-3. We had a stretch where we lost 7 out of 9 games, and we were basically 13-10 and almost out of the playoffs when we lost Barry and Isaiah Leafa to injuries for that stretch. And and we weathered that storm too and finished the season by winning 5 games in a row. So I'm hoping that the way we go about our business and the way we are on a daily basis is the foundation of what we do things and not the results. How does it seem? I don't know. You tell me.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.